Thank you, Sonia. I'm excited to talk to you today about some of our research in disease ecology. So what is disease ecology? It's not something that the Institute of Ecology, for instance, was particularly known for. Well, disease ecology, in my view, is this movement that's been happening in our discipline over about the last 15 or 20 years or so. It addresses primarily the setting in which infectious diseases emerge, human infectious diseases, and the ways in which an ecological approach to thinking about disease transmission might affect the management of human diseases, livestock diseases, and of course diseases of wildlife. But also, it's become a rich source of new conceptual questions for ecology to deal with, for community ecology, for population ecology, for evolutionary ecology, but also, I think, for landscape ecology. So, landscape ecology is something that the Institute of Ecology and the School of Ecology have a long and rich history of association with. I think that some of the origins of landscape ecology happened right here at the University of Georgia. On the right here is a photo of Frank Golly, who I was fortunate to get to know just briefly in my first couple of months as a faculty member, a new assistant professor here. And he wrote in the organizing manifesto for the Journal of Landscape Ecology that we are interested in ecosystem functions at a landscape scale. These functions include flows of water, of chemical elements, and of energy. We're also interested in the structural arrangements of the biota and the physical environments which control these functions. Another landscape ecologist, Gary Barrett, wrote that landscape ecology considers the development and dynamics of spatial heterogeneity, spatial and temporal interactions and exchanges across heterogeneous landscapes, influences of spatial heterogeneity on the biotic and abiotic processes, and the management of spatial heterogeneity. So what do these concepts have to do with infectious diseases? Well, here's a figure that we published in association with an editorial at the time of the 2013 to 2015 Ebola epidemic. In fact, early on during the epidemic, when we were trying to marshal all of the various information that we could to understand what was going on in West Africa at the time when we thought Ebola was primarily an East African disease. And you can see from this figure that the history of Ebola is long and complicated, and that the ecology of Ebola is spatially complicated. Ebola crops up in different places in Central, Eastern, and now also Western Africa in association with a large number of animal species and, in fact, human activities in the environment. Some of the work that we've done has tried to capitalize on ecologists' understanding of heterogeneity. In my lab, we also try and draw on research in other quantitative disciplines, in this case particularly econometrics and the computer science field of machine learning, how it is that we identify patterns in very complicated data. One of our recent projects has developed a new approach to predicting where spillover events might occur. Now, Ebola spills over into chimpanzees, gorillas, other non-human primates, but it also spills over into humans. And our goal was to develop a model that could take advantage of ecological information, in this case primarily remotely sensed data and information that we have on human populations, and predict from the literally billion background observations we have where the 60 known epidemics and epizootics were expected to occur. And in fact, our model did this with unprecedented accuracy, about 80% accurate in its predictions. Well, if you ask me, this is landscape ecology. But landscape ecology isn't the only part of ecology that's being affected by these developments in disease ecology. We're also working on community ecology, methods that are informing community ecology in general and taking community ecology concepts in order to understand disease associations and risk to humans. An example for that comes from the recent outbreak of Zika virus, which started in South America and has progressed and is now occasionally found also even in the United States and other parts of North America. Our question about Zika virus was the following. So Zika virus belongs to the group of viruses called flaviviruses. Now, some flaviviruses associate with only one mosquito vector, but in fact, many of the flaviviruses are quite promiscuous in their associations. Now, Zika came originally from Africa, had spread throughout the South Pacific, and was then found in South and Central America. Would Zika be able to invade North America? That was the question that we were interested in. But of course, the mosquito species found in North America are different than those in all of the places that Zika had historically been found. So then an association with a North American mosquito species would be a kind of adaptation or evolutionary innovation. How would we possibly be able to predict such a thing? What we did was we developed a species interaction network. What you see on the right-hand side of this slide is a list of all of the flaviviruses that are known to infect people and all of the mosquito species they're associated with. And then we used a machine learning algorithm, one that was developed here at the University of Georgia, to try and predict what that species association network might look like. This is work that was developed with Barbara Hahn, who's now a research scientist at the Carey Institute, with Tad Dallas, a PhD student who received his degree here just a couple of years ago, and with Michelle Evans, who's a PhD student here currently. Of course, I'm not the only one here that's doing disease ecology. Others of our work draws on other parts of the rich history of research here at UGA. For instance, I think Jean Odum is well known for this paper on the ecology of a coral reef community in the Eniwetok Atoll. Well, guess what? Corals get disease too. And so research by Andrew Park, for instance, and Jim Porter has been combining this historical interest in marine ecology, reef ecology, with disease ecology to understand this new manifestation of disease. And in fact, just last year in 2016, we launched, as part of the School of Ecology, a new Center for the Ecology of Infectious Diseases, which is now bringing together all of the research that we do, not just in the Odum School, but across campus with colleagues in the College of Public Health, the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences, and the College of Veterinary Medicine as well, in order to understand just exactly what this ecological setting is in which infectious diseases emerge, spread, and evolve, and also to take what we now understand about infectious disease and feed back into our discipline.